So my name is Henry. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Smithery. Smithery is a small startup that we started last year around December. But before I talk about Smithery, I want to talk a little bit about the last startup that I co-founded. It's called Jenny AI. Somehow this is not working. Okay. So at my last startup, Jenny, we built an academic AI copilot. It's kind of like Cursor for academic researchers. But there was one thing during my journey at Jenny that kept bothering me. One PhD student showed me her AI workflow. It involved ChatGPT here, right? It involved a bunch of PDFs, some citation management software, some text on Grammarly. Her content was scattered all over the place, and she was copying and pasting between these windows and ChatGPT all the time. And this kind of copy and paste hell is a problem that isn't unique to academics. Every knowledge worker today is in some way trapped in this state of flow. And so I think what has happened in the last couple of years is that models have been getting smarter. They've been gaining more and more in intelligence. But ultimately, they've been very much disembodied from the rest of the world. They lived in this chat box, and they weren't talking to all the other apps, products, and services out there. So we basically have Claude's paradox here. There's so many agents out there, but why are they not running and doing a lot of practical daily tasks? And so a lot of people in the AI community recognize this problem. In late 2024, Anthropic introduced the MCP, a Model Context Protocol. And I won't get into too much in that because other presenters have already done that. But personally, when I saw MCP come out last year, I was pretty excited. And it kind of inspired me to start Smithery, which is my company, to help proliferate this economy of AI native services. So a quick word of what Smithery is. If you go to our website, smithery.ai, you will see a catalog of different MCP servers. You can think of us like a marketplace of MCPs where developers can publish, deploy, and also host their MCP servers. So we're a little bit like Vercel for MCPs, but we also do distribution. So we kind of help showcase your MCP server. So if you are building a memory management system, you can host on Smithery, and we generate a nice landing page for you and for people to explore what are tools available and how can someone use it. And the goal here is the goal here is to curate and find a bunch of high quality servers that you can use in your AI agents. So here I have a quick demo to show you. In this demo, what I'll be doing is asking an agent that we have kind of built on Smithery to do a complex orchestration of tasks. So who here uses Notion? Okay, we got a good number of people. Who here uses Linear? Okay, I expected more engineers to be using Linear, but it's okay. And GitHub. Okay, we got more people for GitHub. So in this kind of demo here, I'm going to ask this AI client, which is basically like ChatGPT, right, to do a bunch of complicated things. I want to first analyze my customer interviews, which I've stored in my Notion, get some user insights, and after gathering these insights, I wanted to review the issues on my GitHub and analyze that, then do a quick search on potential solutions to address these problems. And once the agent has a clear action plan, I want to get it to create a task or project on Linear to track this potential task. So hopefully it will do it in one shot, but we'll see if it trips up. So I'm using GPT-5 Mini here, and with low reasoning effort. So agent starting, it starts off doing a tool call on Notion to search for relevant documents. It's fetching for the Notion document, getting the actual content. And a couple of things are kind of happening here, right? So models are now good enough to kind of orchestrate a few tools here. But I think what's really interesting is if we can actually expand the number of tools. that it can interact with. Okay, so it did a couple of things. Quickly searched Notion, looked into the repos on GitHub, and looks like GPT-5 Mini failed on one task, but it said it created a task on linear. Okay, so it created a task saying that it, aligned, with customer interview insights, blah blah, and so on. So this is just like a prototype of like what you could imagine agents doing in the future if it actually had context and capabilities to all the other products you're using. And obviously, like today, we're quite limited in what we can do, even with MCPs, because there are just not a lot of high quality MCPs there. There are a lot of people building MCPs. Since launching Smithery in January or December last year, we've been getting about 10 new deployments on our platform from different developers building MCPs. So in some sense, like, models are getting smarter. MCPs are being built. Are we done, right? Is AGI going to be solved, and can we now like relax? And obviously the short answer is not really, because as I showed in the demo, while MCP is helpful for a few key tasks, unfortunately MCP is like in a current state where it's still far from enabling agents to be fully autonomous. And there are a few reasons, there are a bunch of reasons for this actually. But the one I'm going to focus on today is the fact that MCP has been a kind of high friction, sloppy experience for quite a long time. And this starts off first by if we look at MCP's installation process. So if you go to any MCP server, or actually one of the demos we saw just now, in order to install an MCP server, historically you had to go to someone's README file, read these like instructions, copy some JSON file, and this would be completely undoable if you're not technical and don't understand what this is. And then your server might work on cloud desktop. So the first solution that we thought of back earlier this year was the idea of like having keychains. So instead of like having users store or try to copy and paste API keys into a command line and a JSON file and try to get it to different AI clients, why don't we allow developers to define a configuration schema, which is like how your MCP server, or what types of fields your MCP server needs, or tokens, or API keys it needs to run. And once the developer specifies that, we can then have a schema to inject the right keys that the user has supplied once it goes through our gateway. And what that looks like in practice is a nice UI that looks like this. If we look at this particular MCP server, you can click configure. You can see the fields generated here based on the developer specified configuration schema. And as a user, you would just enter these fields instead of having to edit JSON files. So a small step up above JSON files because you have a UI. But we can do better than that. And a lot of people in the MCP community recognize this problem. So in around April of this year, the MCP committee finally standardized the way to properly authenticate with MCP servers. And that is the MCP OAuth spec. Now OAuth is pretty complicated. It involves a dance that looks a little bit like this and has a lot of steps. So I won't get into the nitty-gritty details. But in essence, we can achieve an experience that is a lot more familiar to people. So in this example here, what we have, let me share my full screen. Okay, in this example here, we're trying to connect to Linear. It pops up this window that you guys are probably familiar with because it's used in other apps as well. You just click connect. It loads up Linear in a bit. And in this flow, an application can define like the scopes and what permissions to grant your agent access to. We approve of the permission. It's setting up a connection, and in a second it's going to close. Okay, connected successfully. It closed. Now it loaded up Linear. And that's a much smoother process than having users copy API keys, because end users typically will not know what API keys are. So how does this work? Well, an MCP server would point to an OAuth server. The MCP server itself will act as an OAuth resource server. And Smithery will kind of work with the upstream's OAuth server and the MCP server to kind of manage this process. But we can take it to another level. And this is where agent identity comes in. So agent identity, before we talk about agent identity, we can touch on a little bit about human identity. And you might have seen these like logins in most websites where you can sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook. All these social logins are available. And agent identity is the analog of this type of social login for AI agents. Because what's better than OAuth if you have no OAuth and no login required? So in this scheme, how it would work is Smithery acts as an identity provider. And because a user has already authenticated with Smithery, they can now authenticate with all the different apps on the platform. And how this works, this doesn't have to necessarily work with Smithery. If you're using Okta and Enterprise, this will also work as well. And it's, of course, another complicated dance between Smithery and the upstream MCP server. But as a developer, what you have to do is you have to implement some details in our SDK. And what that allows you to do is you kind of take Smithery's token or claim about this user, and you exchange it for a custom token that you return to Smithery. And by defining that, users don't really have to sign in to your service if your service trusts Smithery as an identity provider. So this has been launched in beta, and we're kind of testing it with a few MCP servers. So zooming back out a little bit, I think MCP is actually in an interesting moment right now. I think since, as of like September, or about 2 months ago, we're starting to go into the trough of sorrow, because there was a lot of hype, especially in SF, about MCP, especially during March last year. A lot of people tried to build MCP servers. A lot of hobby projects came out, and now people realizing that it's actually a lot harder than you think to make a high-quality MCP server. But this is also the greatest time to be building something of value, because at the end of the tunnel, what we have is a new category of software, the AI native service. An AI native service is not just an API, or it's not just an open API spec, right? It's a fundamentally new category of software that's made for AI agents. And I think that's pretty interesting. So while there may be only a handful of high-quality MCP servers today, the next one could be made by you. And at Smithery, we believe that tool calls are new clicks. They're going to be the new way the internet will be running in the future. So if you're interested, come check out our site or talk to me later. Thank you.